Hey guys, today we're going to be making a delicious banana cake in the microwave. This recipe is so easy and the end result is so delicious. It does not taste like it was made in the microwave at all. So, the ingredients that we will need for this cake are 5 bananas, 1 cup of flour, 3 cups of sugar, which should be separated into 2 cups and 1 cup, 5/8 of a tablespoon of baking powder, 5/8 of a tablespoon of salt, 5/8 of a tablespoon of baking soda, 5 tablespoons of vegetable oil, 1.5 tablespoons of honey, which should be separated into 1 tablespoon and half of a tablespoon, 7 tablespoons of milk, which should be separated into 5 tablespoons and 2 tablespoons, and half a cup of butter at room temperature. The next thing that I'm going to go over is the optional ingredients. I have put this list of ingredients here because those are things that I would have used when making my cake, should I have chosen to use them. However, if you're making this cake at home, you can really make it your own, but I'm going to be giving some tips regarding these optional ingredients as I go through and make the cake. Now that we have gone over those, let's begin with our recipe. The first step is to whisk together all of the dry ingredients for our cake, and I was using all-purpose flour for this, so my mix of dry ingredients turned out more tan than white. If your dry ingredient mix is a different color, that may be why. Also, as you can see, I used white sugar, but you can use brown sugar as well if you would prefer that. After this, I added my wet ingredients, and be sure to mix well with this step, otherwise the banana will make your batter lumpy. And just like that, our cake batter is done. It's time to cook our cake. I cooked half a cup of batter at a time in a wide microwavable cup at 30-second intervals to make sure it was cooked all the way through. You will have to do it a little bit at a time due to the method of cooking, but the end result is definitely worth the wait. Once I was done, I deconstructed and combined all of my cakes. I picked a pan that I wanted my cake to be in the shape of and started moving my cake in between the pan and plate to really compact and shape it exactly the way that I wanted it. I washed my hands and used a measuring cup to make sure that it was perfect. If you see, on the left-hand side, you can kind of see the corner of a rectangular glass tray. I was originally going to use that to shape my cake, but changed my mind about halfway through, and so you can really experiment with this cake because of the method being used to cook it. Once you are done shaping your cake, go ahead and stick it in the fridge for about an hour or so, and you can move on to your buttercream. Now, you can use store-bought buttercream, or if you prefer homemade buttercream, you can use an electric mixer. Both of those are really great options, but I made my buttercream by hand, so without an electric mixer, and it still turned out really good. If you are making your buttercream, note one thing that I said earlier on. I said that we needed half a cup of butter at room temperature. With this, you want to let it sit out and naturally soften, rather than sticking it in the microwave a couple of minutes before you start creaming it. And this will make it much easier to mix everything else in later on, and it will make for a thicker, fluffier buttercream. So, this is where all of the optional ingredients start coming into play. I've added the half tablespoon of honey that was in the original ingredients list, but I've also added some additional honey, some maple syrup, and a pinch of salt, which were all mentioned in the optional ingredients list. Now, one thing about this buttercream is that it has a slightly overpowering buttery taste. So if you don't particularly like the taste of butter, I have 2 options for you. Number 1, this one's pretty basic, just add some vanilla extract and this will give you delicious tasting vanilla buttercream. However, if you don't like the taste of vanilla extract or just don't have it on hand, you can add in a mixture of extra milk, heavy cream, and coconut oil, the measurements of which are in the optional ingredients list. Once your butter is sufficiently creamy, you can go ahead and mix in your sugar, and you want to do that 1 cup at a time. There are 2 different options for sugar that you can use for this recipe: white sugar or confectioner's sugar, more commonly known as powdered sugar. Powdered sugar will mix more easily, but white sugar still gives it a great taste, so that really depends on what you have on hand. Once the sugar has been blended nicely with the butter, add your milk 1 tablespoon at a time. When you are done with your buttercream, put it in the fridge for about 15 minutes before taking it out again to use. Once your buttercream is done in the fridge, you're done with that and you are ready to decorate. You want to take your cake out of the fridge as well and put it on something that'll be easy for you to decorate on. I did this by just piping on the frosting and then smoothing it out with the same spatula that I used to make the frosting. Now, if you're really good at frosting, if you're really artsy, things like that, this is going to be right up your alley. Decorate your cake however you want. If you're not the best at this, like me on the other hand, I'm going to put some links in the description below for some videos that will help you and show you all these very cool tricks and tips, just as some guidance to frost your cake. But do not let this stop your flow of creativity. I completely made up this idea on my own, decorated it with some salted peanuts and apple slices, and it turned out really, really good. One thing about this buttercream though is that it is on the denser side, so if you're using this buttercream recipe that I have suggested, I would say maybe use about half the recipe, maybe make half the recipe, or maybe just even put a very thin layer on and save the rest for later, because you don't want to end up with the buttercream with the side of cake that I ended up having by the end of this whole ordeal. This cake though turned out so good. I put it in the fridge for another 4 hours after I was done decorating, and I recommend cutting it into slices and microwaving each slice for about 15 seconds before you eat it, and this will provide you with the best results. If you have been cooking alongside me or are planning to save this recipe for later on, enjoy. Please like and subscribe to our channel. We really hope that you enjoy these videos, and have a great day. Bye-bye.